Howdy, y'all. Let's start making this here drone arm. This one right here. So first we are going to create a new Onshape document and set the workspace length unit to millimeters, and then rename the Part Studio drone arm. Okay, the document menu up here is where the workspace units are. We want to change the length from inches to millimeters, and then accept. And then we're going to rename our Part Studio on arm. So we're going to start by sketching profiles for the drone arm on different planes. So we're going to start with a new sketch on the front plane. Remember, there's keyboard shortcuts. N gets you the straight normal view, and then P makes the planes disappear. All right, now this is maybe not the best picture because it's so short and compact there. So we're going to take our time kind of figuring out what we need to do to make this. So let's see, sketch a 2-point spline on the front plane as shown. Be sure the right end point is vertical to the origin. And it's also, we can dimension it 25 millimeters up. And then let's see, this other one doesn't have to be vertical to anything. So let's do this. Let's get our spline tool. And we'll start with our first point, getting that vertical relationship right there. And then just move over to the right and then click one more time. And then, like, if you move again, it wants to place another point. We only want 2 points. So now you just hit escape and you have a 2-point spline. These little like hollow circles here are the these are the what do they call them? The arms? What do they call them here? They call them handles of the spline. So those are called the handles. We're going to sketch 2 horizontal construction lines next, one at each endpoint of the spline. So 2 horizontal construction lines, one at each endpoint. So I'm going to get my line and construction tools, and I'm going to start right here, make sure it's horizontal, and then stop there. Same thing for the bottom. Start here, make sure it's horizontal, and stop. So this line will be horizontal no matter what, and this one too. And now we need to ensure that the spline is tangent to each construction line. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to select the construction line and the spline, and then do the tangent constraint. And then I'll do the same thing with this one. So now, if you move things, you can tell they stay tangent. Now we're going to sketch a construction line on each handle of the spline. And then add an equal constraint between the handle construction lines. So construction lines, and we're going to go from here to there. And from here to there. And then I'm going to select those two construction lines that I just made that are they're basically now acting as the handles of our splines. And we are going to do an equal constraint on them. That way they're going to always be the same, they're the same size. And then dimension as shown. Okay, so what the first dimension we'll do, let's do the 125 from endpoint to endpoint horizontally. So I'll get my dimension tool from endpoint to endpoint. And look, and remember, whenever you measure point to point, it makes a big difference where you move your cursor to click to place the dimension. Right now, the dimension is like tilted. It's the shortest distance between those 2 points. If I move my cursor over to the right, it'll measure the vertical distance. If I move it up, it'll measure the horizontal distance. You want to make sure you see the difference between that, the tilted one, and the horizontal one. So that was supposed to be, was it 125? Yes. So now the dimension of our handle is 45. So this one is our handle right here. That should be 45. Let's see. The top of the spline is 25 millimeters above the origin. So I can dimension from here to there. I hate it when it does that. You already clicked a thing and then it doesn't remember that you clicked it. And then it says you can't dimension to itself. And then the other endpoint of the spline should be 15 millimeters above the origin. So right now it's below the origin. If I tried to put a dimension on it right now, it would lock it in place 15 millimeters below. So I have to exit my dimension tool and like scoot this up above that so that I can put that dimension on there. So boom and boom, and that is 15. So it doesn't matter how long our horizontal construction lines are over here, because all we're using that for is tangency with the curve. So the fact that these 2 points are blue doesn't matter. This sketch is good. It's fully constrained. So we're going to accept that sketch. Next, we're going to create a new sketch on the top plane. So I'm going to push P to get my planes back, and I'm going to pick the top plane to make a sketch. Normal view, take away the planes. I'm going to rotate this. Okay, so you can see like the construction line here. This is the spline is actually just goes from right there. Okay, so create a new sketch on the top plane. Sketch a 2-point spline as shown. Be sure the right end point is vertical to the origin, but it looks like it's below the origin, right? So be sure the right end is endpoint. The right end point is vertical to the origin, and the left end point is vertical to the corresponding end point in sketch 1. So let's see what that means. So here's the origin and here's the end point from sketch 1. So we're going to make a 2-point spline. The first end point is going to be vertical below the origin, and the last end point is vertical below. Oh, it doesn't want to give me the automatic, so I'm just going to place it. Remember to hit escape so it knows you only want 2, and then I am going to select these 2 points and put a vertical constraint on them. So now this point is always going to be right under that point, and this end point is always going to be right under the origin. Okay, now we just need to do some dimensions, and we'll do this. It also says to sketch construction lines on the spline handles and do an equal constraint, and then dimension them to 45 millimeters. So let's make our construction lines for our handles. Then I'm going to select both of them and do an equal constraint. And then I'm going to dimension one of them to be, was it 45? And also be sure that the construction lines are horizontal. So for that, you just select one at a time. Select that, and then hit horizontal. If you select both of them, it'll make them horizontal to each other. And we don't want that. We just do it one at a time and make that actual line horizontal. So now the only thing that can move is really, it just depends on, it just changes the height. So let's look at our dimensions. This end point is 21.5 millimeters below the origin. And the other end point is 15 millimeters below it. Below the origin. Remember to be careful where you place it. 15. Now the sketch is done. All right, now we're gonna create the first surface of our drone arm. So we're gonna select the Loft feature in the toolbar, choose Surface and New, and we're gonna select Sketch 1 and Sketch 2 as the profiles. So we push Loft, Surface, New. For profiles, Sketch 1 and Sketch 2. And so right now it just makes a flat line in between them, kind of, or like kind of flat-ish because they're twisted a little bit. Now, so for the start and end profile conditions, we're going to select normal to profile. So start and profile condition, it says none. We're changing to normal to profile. And so that kind of like blows it up a little bit, makes it a little bit rounder. And then we're going to adjust each magnitude to 2 to change the effect of the profile condition. So magnitude. So here it says start magnitude 1. We're going to change it to 2. End magnitude is 1. We're going to change that to 2 also. So now we've got kind of like a more rounded dealio there. So now notice we have one surface and no parts yet, right? We don't have anything solid yet. Okay, so now we're going to do a part mirror. Remember before, whenever we did mirror, we had to do a feature mirror. But with this, we can do a part mirror. So we're going to select the mirror button and choose part mirror in the drop-down menu. Choose add so that it just makes, it's going to still be one surface. It'll just be one bigger surface. Select the surface as the entities to mirror. Choose the top plane as the mirror plane. So here's the mirror button. Entities to mirror. That surface. Mirror plane is going to be the top plane. And oh, I don't want it to be new because then it'll be 2 surfaces. I want it to be add so that it's 1 surface. Okay, so now we're going to make this wacky sketch to create the end of the drone arm. So we're going to make a new sketch on the front plane. And in their sketch, they are hiding the rest of it. So it says show sketch 1 and hide the lofted surface. So sketch 1, I'm going to show, and then this surface down here, I'm going to hide. Okay, and so this part right here, this is like the left end of that spline in sketch 1, and then this is the construction line that goes past it. So what we're going to do is we're going to make our sketch over here. This will be this is the end point of that spline that is in this picture right here. So we're going to start with this vertical construction line off to the left of the spline. So construction line. So as long as I'm anywhere to the left of this point, I'm good. And I'm just going to make a vertical, make sure it gets that vertical constraint on it. All right. Sketch the rest of the profile with a horizontal line. So this little horizontal line right here. A 2-point spline. And then a conic curve up here. Add a horizontal constraint between the virtual sharp, that's this little guy up here, this little point here, bless you. So we want a horizontal constraint between the virtual sharp here and the end point of the conic. So a horizontal constraint between these two, and then also a horizontal constraint between these two. So all 3 of these points should be at the same height. Okay, so let's start with we're going to start with a horizontal line segment here. Then we'll do a 2-point spline, and then we'll do a conic curve with a rho value of 0.5. Okay, so down here, making a little horizontal line segment. Then I'll hit escape and go get my spline tool. 1, 2, escape. And then a conic, which is under the 3-point arc tool. So we'll go here, and then I want to get horizontal to that. And then I can actually place right here, see how I'm placing this little dot? That's the virtual sharp. And I want that to be horizontal to those two things too. So I'm going to place that right there. And the row value was 0.5. Okay, so this doesn't really look like the picture yet. So we need to go back and figure out what to do. Okay, so it looks like we need to do construction lines for the, I guess they're going to tell us to do that towards the end. Make one of it, this one's going to be vertical, that one's going to be horizontal. I'll just do that now because I want it to look better right now. So just going to drag the handles a little bit. Then I'm going to make construction lines on those handles. Then I'm going to make this handle horizontal. Make this handle vertical. We need to make this line segment and this spline tangent. So I'm going to do a tangent constraint there. And then I think these are supposed to be tangent as well. So I'll select the conic and the spline and make them tangent. So we got the tangent constraints, we got the horizontal constraints. So all three of these points have horizontal constraints together, and then construction lines on the splines. All right, so we've done everything on this slide. Next, put dimensions on it. Okay, so I'll start with the 155 from the far end of the far end point of sketch 1. 155 all the way over to the virtual sharp here. So dimension tool, that point to that point, and make sure you get it. We don't want it giving us this tilted measurement. We want the straight across. 155. Okay, then we've got, this is a diameter of 15 from this point across the construction line. So remember, we have to click on the construction line and go past it to get a diameter. So this one was 15. So click on the here and then on the construction line and then move to the right. 15. The top here is 10 millimeters above the end point of the conic. So from there down to there is 10. So either one of these points would work to measure from. There. And we want it to be this vertical measurement, and that is 10. Let's see. So then the the height, the end point, the second end point from sketch 1 should be 10 millimeters away from this line. So the construction line should be 10 millimeters to the left of that end point. So I'm going to have to drag it over there. So I have to get out of my dimension tool, drag it onto the other side. Oh, but look what happens to my little segment down there. I'm going to move my segment too. Okay, and then the dimension, now that this construction line's over here, I can put the dimension from this end point to there. Should be 10. Then another 10 from the conic end point down to the height where that last end point was. So from here down to here was 10. And the length of this handle is 30. And the length of this handle is 10. So the length of the vertical handle is 30. What happened? So whenever this happens, that means when dimensions turn red, it's telling you that the dimension that you just placed is contradicting with something else. That's usually a constraint. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete that dimension I just made and then try to figure out what is making it so that this thing can't be longer. So I need to see what constraints there are on this. Oh, this is the one right here. See how this horizontal constraint lights up? It lights up this end point and the origin. I want this endpoint to be able to move up and down right now. So I need to delete this horizontal constraint. That was one that must have got put on by accident when I didn't notice. Sometimes when you just move things around, so I'm going to delete that sketch entity. Notice how like you just move this thing around, but if you put it if you just leave it here, it's going to get a horizontal constraint. So I'm going to move it elsewhere. And now I can go back and dimension it. So that was supposed to be 30. And then the other handle was 10. Then, oh, we got to show sketch 2 now so that we can show this dimension. That the bottom here is 20 millimeters below where sketch 2 is. So I'm going to go show sketch 2 and then dimension the bottom here. Maybe I'll just this point. And that was 20. And what else we got? This from here to the center line, basically, we got a diameter of 15. This point here So from this point to the construction line and then past, so we get a diameter measurement, and that's 15. And now everything is fully defined on my sketch. So I'm going to accept that sketch. I'll go ahead and show my surface again and hide the two sketches that I don't need to see. All right, so now we are going to revolve the third sketch to create the surface at the end of the drone arm. So we're going to do the revolve feature, choose surface and new. So here's revolve, surface, and new. And edges, sketch curves to revolve, sketch 3. And the revolve axis is going to be the construction line. And then right now it does a full revolution, which we don't need the full revolution. So we are going to, in the pull down menu, select end type as one direction and the revolve angle of 180 degrees. So end type is your favorite boy band, and the angle is 180 degrees. Okay, but I don't want it over there. I need to flip it. So click this. There we go. All right, so now we've got two separate surfaces, right? And they overlap. So we can't just make them one. But what we can do is use the split tool like we did before on the with the cap. So and we have to split them in both directions. We have to make this one split that one, and then we have to make that one split this one, and then we get rid of the extra parts. So So first they say the lofted surface as what to split, and the revolved thing is what we're splitting with. So we're gonna split the blue thing with the gray revolve. So here's the split button. What am I gonna split? This blue thing. What am I gonna split it with? This gray thing. But I want to keep my tools right now so that I still have the gray thing next turn. So I'm going to accept that, and we'll see that now I have three surfaces. I have the little part that's inside, the big long that part that's outside, and then just the little cap thing on the end there. So now I need to split the gray thing using the blue thing. Or actually what I'll use is I'll use the inside of the blue. Did that make three surfaces? I'll use the inside surface of that surface to cut, and then I think we can just do like we don't do keep tools. If we uncheck keep tools, oh, so no, it says to keep it checked and accept, and then we'll go delete the parts off, I guess. So now we're going to do another split, but now we're going to split the gray guy using the blue guy. And actually, right, they say to do keep tools on here, but all it's going to keep is that inside part, which I need to delete anyway. So I'm just going to uncheck keep tools. And then I only have to delete one piece, just this inside part right here. And so now that these two surfaces meet together at one edge, we can knit them together with the Boolean function here. So here's the deletey part. Now we're going to do the Boolean thing to union these two together or knit them together. So here's Boolean. And then I'm just gonna drag and select everything. Check, and now I have one surface. Now that these surfaces are knit together into a single surface, we can apply a fillet now. A fillet can't go between two things that aren't like part of the same part. So we're gonna do this fillet, circular radius 5 millimeters. And I think that's the default. So we just have to hit that, circular 5 millimeters, and that edge. Next, we are going to create a solid part from this surface, and we're going to use planes to help cap off our geometry. So we need to make a plane up here so that we can use that plane to be like a lid on here. So I'm going to select, if you pre-select the 3 points and then push the plane button, it'll automatically give you the 3-point plane option. And that's exactly where we want it. So I'm going to accept that. And then it's I think the front plane. The front plane is going to form the boundary of the bottom here. And then the plane we just made forms the boundary right there. And then, we're going to need this. We're going to need that too. Is that the right plane too? So we're going to need the right plane, the front plane, and this little plane we just made to close off that feature so that it can become solid. So we made that little plane. Now we're going to use the enclose tool. So it's under thicken. So down here, enclose. So what are the entities we want to enclose? Well, surface 1, and then we want plane 1, and then we want the right plane and the front plane. And once we have it all selected, it like changed colors like that because that meant we had enough things selected for it to become a solid part. We hit OK. And now this is a solid part, and we have part 1 down here. We need to rename that to drone arm. And then, so note this is only half of the part. Now we're going to do a mirror to give us the other half of the part. So we're going to do a part mirror, and we're going to add so that it's all going to be one part. And so here we go. Mirror, entities to mirror, drone arm, mirror plane. You can just click on this surface right here and it'll mirror there. Add. Okay, good. So now we still just have one part, the drone arm. And now we are going to hollow it out using the shell feature. So we're going to select the top circle here and then the bottom part here, and then it'll shell out everything in between those with a thickness of 2 millimeters. Make sure that it leaves material on it, that it shells out the inside. Okay, so rib shell. And I'm going to select this little circle here and the bottom face here and change that to 2. And that looks good. So now we have like this hollow plastic arm. We would need, like 4 of them, 1 for each propeller or whatever. Probably goes this way so that the rotors are here. And then the test is like checking the volume of it. And when I checked my volume, it was like decimal places off of what they said was right. So if yours is like decimal places off as well, it's not that big of a deal. So my volume is 41,205.173. They wanted, so 41,205.265 is what they have. That's the closest to what I got. That's correct. I hate how like the waiting screen, it says you got it wrong real fast before it comes up and says, that's right. Okay. So let me stop this video.